Alright, talking about camera angle. When you're approaching scenes, before in the last lecture we talked about shot versus scene versus sequence. Now we're going to talk really focusing on the individual shot. How do you classify the individual shot into types? The first way that you identify what type of shot you're dealing with, you have to ask yourself, is this an objective shot? Is this a subjective shot? Or is it going to be a point of view? Point of view is really one of the more rare ones, but objective versus subjective kind of get flipped around a little bit quite often. And it's not as confusing as it sounds, I don't think. All right, an objective angle. The best way to think of an objective angle is it's a fly on the wall. Objective angle is the most common in movies, is the fly on the wall. It is a viewpoint where the audience sees what is happening, but feels safely removed from the events. That means really you're just sitting back. Imagine you're at a park and you're people watching and they don't know that you're watching them. It's just you're sitting back, you're not interacting with the scene, you're just seeing things. Now you can still have close shots, wide shots, but you're separate from the event. A subjective angle puts the audience in the scene along with the actors, almost as if they were participants. Example of this, a real extreme example of this is when you put the camera on the front of a roller coaster ride and you feel like you're flying with the cockpit, but it can also be just the camera will sort of push its way through a scene and it moves in closer to give an effect. Now, it's not the point of view of somebody, it's not connected to you're not connected to a character, and you're not as if you're an invisible character in the room. That's not what subjective is. It's where the director chooses to move the camera in such a way to show you something, guide you through something, push you into something, and you sort of ride it out and it shows you specific examples of things. And then lastly is point of view, and I think most people should have a grasp on this. Point of view puts the audience into the head of one of the actors. Essentially, you see what they see. That's what point of view is. Now, to give some examples of these, I'm going to show you a couple opening scenes from a film by Martin Scorsese, and I'll probably show a lot of references to Scorsese. This is from a short film of his called Life Lessons. And as we look at the beginning portion of the film here, so this character, we're just tilting down. This is more of an objective. We're just sort of watching it. But we're about to cut to a point of view of this character right there. We're now seeing Nick Nolte's character walk away from the point of view of the man in the elevator. That's a point of view shot. And as the camera goes away. Now, this is a subjective shot, where I'm going to back this up, see if I can back this up just a little bit to show it to you. Because the camera is moving to show us his face, but we're not an audience, we're not any characters in the scenes, we're just seeing him. Now we're in a point of view shot again of Nick Nolte, seeing what he sees. Now we're back to a subjective shot where the camera's slowly pulling back. It's giving us a specific experience. Now we're back into a very stylized point of view shot from his character looking at the woman. And that's Rosanna Arquette. Now again, we're back to subjective. We're going to a very specific point of view, seeing these things as if we're a set of eyes looking around the place. We're no longer standing back and observing the scene. We are actively, as an audience, being guided into specific moments. That's why it's very subjective. We're being subjected to images that we are told we have to pay attention to, either by camera movement or the fact the camera gets so close into these areas. And there's slow motion, it's very stylized. And now we're about to move into an objective here. Now we're in objective. We're flying the wall. Things are no longer, now we're just observing as an audience like a fly on the wall happening. Now we're in objective coverage of the scene. So Martin Scorsese is a master of moving the camera and setting up images and shots properly. Or not properly, but to really express things. And we go from a very stylized, subjective experience as an audience where the camera is being very specific and showing specific details and moving through the image into what the objective part where we just stand back and now the actors are happening around us and we can choose to look where we want to look as opposed to being directed to looking at specific images. All right, now going back to our PowerPoint. Now, when you're talking about shot types, when you're talking about objective versus subjective shots, not so much with point of view, but when you're talking about objective and subjective images, there are lots of different shot types. Most folks are probably familiar with the term wide shot, medium shot, and close up. But what do those mean? When you are a filmmaker and working with a crew, when someone says a wide shot, they generally have a very specific meaning that they want you to come away from that. And there are lots of other different kinds of shots. And I'm just going to list a few of them here. And hint, hint, you may need to remember a few of these things. And these come in handy when you're on a set because you want to be able to know the difference between an establishing shot and a wide shot. Now, this here is an establishing shot. The biggest thing about establishing shot, you may say, well, isn't this a wide shot? Or could you call this an extreme long shot? Yes, it is these things. However, what makes it an establishing shot is that it shows the locale of the scene. It is telling us, it is establishing for us where we are at. We are at, in this case, this building. So our audience knows where you're at. That's why it's an establishing shot. It's establishing place. Master shot. Now, a master shot can be wider, can be a little bit tighter. This is another area where it's a little bit sort of loosey-goose in terms of exactly how wide a master shot needs to get. But the biggest thing to know about a master shot is that it is wide enough to include all, an emphasis on all, the actors or objects of interest. That means in a master shot, if we need to see there are 3 people in the room, you see 3 people in the room. If we only saw these 2 people in the room, that would not be a master shot. All right. If we need to know there was a photocopier in the room and we only saw these people, that would not be a master shot. The master shot shows everything in the scene that is of interest. So if we need to know there's a gun in the room, the master shot better see the gun. If we need to know there are 5 people in the room, we better see all 5 people in the room. Or if we have 4 people and a person's going to walk in through a doorway, we better see there's a doorway there for them to walk through. That's the master shot. It includes everything of interest. Next is a wide shot. Now this is a bit more commonplace. This is where it can move a little bit closer, but it still includes most of the body of the actors. You get them from head to toe, but you do not need to include everything that's important in the shot. A wide shot basically just shows all of the actor, or it could be an object. So if you were showing a wide shot of a lamp, that would just be the top and the bottom of the lamp. If you're showing a wide shot of a dog, it would be the top and bottom of a dog. Most of the time you're filming actors, so when you're talking about a wide shot, it's top and bottom of your actors. Two shot. Pretty self-explanatory. It shows 2 characters and how they relate to one another. Usually that means they're from the waist up because it's going to be a fairly tight shot. Over the shoulder shot. Now this is a nice shot. It is a medium to a close-up shot. It includes 2 actors taken over the shoulder of one actor and showing the face of the other actor. So pretty self-explanatory. You're over the shoulder. Medium shot. Now this is another one of those shots that kind of people have a little bit of variance in how they interpret a medium shot. But in general, a medium shot shows the actor from the waist up. So this is the waist. Sometimes people go the medium shot a little bit tighter than that, a little above the waist, but generally speaking, it's above the waist for a medium shot. Close up. Again, pretty standard, but this is an area also where one person's idea of a close-up is a little bit different than another person's idea of a close-up. But you could go a little wider than this, you could go a hair tighter than this, but in general I've seen some people consider close-ups being about mid-sternum to the top of the head. Extreme close-up, that's when you get an even tighter. And I've seen extreme close-ups go even farther than this. You can go, I've seen extreme close-ups go into that. You could also have extreme close-ups of items. You go in just for extreme close-up of a quarter or a pen or someone's hand. Extreme close-ups just are, so close that only part of the actor's face is visible, or only part of the object you're looking to see is visible. If you get extreme close-up of a book, you're probably showing the title of that book, so your audience can read that. Insert shot. Now this, again, is a little bit of a loosey goose, because an insert shot could really be of anything, and it could be a wide shot, it could be extreme close-up, maybe even establishing shot, but probably not. But an insert shot is a shot of something other than the actors that will be edited into the scene. The point of an insert shot is really to cover you when you get to editing. We'll talk about this when we get to editing. But the point of an insert shot is sometimes it's to give a detail. Like in this case, you need to know what time it is. It's a little after 8:15. Or it could be that, let's say your actor delivers a really, really cool delivery of the line up to halfway into that scene, and then sneezes and screws up, and you need to cut that sneeze out. Well, you can cut to this insert shot and cut out that part where he sneezes and cut back into where he picks up again. So insert shots are there sometimes to give information, and sometimes they're there just to cover you in editing, to make sure all your options are taken care of. Point of view, we've talked about this, and again, point of view can be a close-up, can be a wider shot, but the point is that it's from the point of view of that character. Dirty single. Now this is one that is a little bit harder to understand, but not really. But a dirty single is any shot where non-important foreground objects partially obscure the subject of the shot. This is different than an over-the-shoulder. An over-the-shoulder is not a dirty single because the character they're talking to is important. A dirty single has something that is not important. In this case, we have all these spears and guns and the back of an unimportant soldier head, because what we're looking at is this guy right here. And dirty singles can be very effective shots in a scene because it can just make things look more interesting. It can help draw attention because in this case, our character really is framed within those rifles. And so we have no choice but to look at this person because his face is right there dead center for us to take a look at. And it really helps center that. Also, it gives things depth. It makes shots look deeper. So it's always nice to show some depth, some layers, that we have items in the foreground, we have items in the midground, and then we have items in the background. So that's always a really effective way to make your images look more three-dimensional. Because especially when we get into lighting, we'll be talking about how we live in a three-dimensional world, but when you film, you turn that to 2 dimensions. But you want your audience to have the sense of depth, sense of things being three-dimensional. Dirty singles or doubles, dirty triples, whatever. They are really effective for making it feel like more of a real world. Because, if we were standing there, we would have things in front of us, we'd be looking past them. And it just gives things layers, gives things depth, and gives your brain something to wrap their head around, figuring out how far away are these people from us. So dirty singles can be very effective and really cool shots when done properly. Cowboy shot. Now, some people call cowboy shots a medium wide or a medium long, but cowboy shot really became popular in the 50s and 60s when there were so many westerns being produced out of Hollywood. And the reason why it's called the cowboy shot is because cowboys always had the gun holster, and the gun holster is in about mid-thigh up, and so you want to be able to get the camera as close as possible to the actor, but still be able to see them draw their gun. And hence the cowboy shot was born. So a cowboy shot is really from mid-thigh up. These are also just a few of the shot types that are out there. You can really combine them and mix them up a little bit. Every director is going to have a little different understanding, and where you place your subject within the frame as well. But we'll cover that in the next section. Thanks.